Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I know we're limited on time, so let's start with the fact that we're experiencing some pain in our pocketbooks right now. It seems inflation's impacting every facet of our lives. So what would be your response to critics who say the recent infrastructure law is just another form of overspending in Washington?
Well, the infrastructure law is something that we have needed for decades, and one of the reasons we're seeing pressure on prices is that our supply chains are subject to deteriorating infrastructure. I think one of the reasons why you saw so many Republicans and Democrats agreeing on this, something that frankly just doesn't happen that much anymore in today's Washington, is that this really is needed infrastructure spending. And economists agree, which is why I think you saw such strong bipartisan energy around this. And now we got to get to work and get it done.
Amtrak has been looking at building a passenger rail from Chicago to Iowa City with a stop here in the Quad Cities for years. Knowing that there's money in this infrastructure law set aside to accomplish just that, talk about the other impacts communities like ours could expect to see in transportation out of this infrastructure law and raised grants.
Well, this infrastructure law represents the most we've done to support passenger rail since Amtrak was created in the first place. And I do think the Midwest is one of the regions with the most to gain just because you have so many cities that would benefit from being better connected. It also includes $7 billion in the coming years for a program called RAISE. That's a competitive grant program that allows my department to fund good local ideas. The thought is that not all of the answers ought to come from Washington, but more of the money should when local communities come up with good ideas. We were just able to announce two very exciting grants benefiting the Quad Cities. One of them coming out of Clinton, which is going to allow for resurfacing of and reconstruction really of Manufacturing Drive and another nearby roadway that has tons of benefits on everything from water quality in the nearby river to pedestrian access and safety. And then over on the Dixon side, completing the riverfront master plan there with new investments that are going to benefit a park and a pedestrian walkway over the Rock River there. These are the kinds of things that really affect the economic vibrancy and even the physical safety of a community. And thanks to this infrastructure law, we're going to have that much more to work with going forward for these good, worthy projects. Because I can tell you, every time we get applications in my department, we're only able to fund a tiny fraction of the good applications that come through.
Yeah, and we had a $1 billion bridge project funded through Iowa and Illinois wrapping up right now. It takes Interstate 74 between Iowa and Illinois. And although we didn't receive money from the raised grant or infrastructure law, the recent one, could we expect to see dollars going toward projects like these in the Quad Cities area?
Absolutely. You know, those projects were managed on a day-to-day basis by the states, but involved federal funding flowing through formulas that support Illinois, Iowa, and every state in the union. Those formulas just got bigger. More funding is going through them because we know the need. You know, when you hear about the thousands of miles of roadway that are in rough shape, the thousands of bridges in our country that are in poor condition, you know, that I-74 is just one example of where we've seen a lot of that. We've tried to keep up with the funding that we have, but up until now, it's just not been enough. This helps us change that and really have the kind of infrastructure we're going to need to compete in the years ahead.
And you spoke a little bit about this, but the RAISE grant program was allotted about $1 billion toward these infrastructure projects, and your team tells me you received applications which totaled about $10 billion in projects. So how do you prioritize which ones are most deserving?
Well, it is tough to winnow down that list when you've got a 10-to-1 difference between all the ideas that come in and how much funding we have. But one of the reasons why these projects out of the Quad Cities, both the Clinton and the Dixon projects, really rose to the top is that they take care of a lot of things at once. Our priorities include safety. That's the number one thing we think about in my department. They include sustainability, making sure that we're doing a better job for the future and even helping climate change through the way that roads are designed. Equity, making sure people are served who weren't served in the past. And of course, job creation and economic strength. All of those things were reflected in these applications. I mean, the Manufacturing Drive effort, that actually includes a stormwater separation. I don't want to get too wonky here, but as a former mayor from a river city, I know how important that is for water quality, as well as for making sure that cities and towns are in good shape, as well as some of the more obvious things that drivers are going to notice, like a better surface on the road, and things that pedestrians will notice, like safer crossings. When you have all of those things added together in a single project, that helps it make the cut in a very, very competitive process.
All right, Secretary Buttigieg, thank you so much for your time.